You've ever wondered why, even after pleasure, you're left with emptiness? There's something nobody told you. What you feel is not just tiredness, it's a loss of power. Masturbation, when done without awareness, isn't merely a habit. It's a silent energy drain that weakens your mind, your focus, and your presence. But what if I told you that this very act can be transformed into a sacred practice, capable of awakening hidden forces within you? In this video, you'll discover how millennia-old traditions, from Taoism to Hermetic alchemy, saw sexual energy as the elixir of spiritual immortality. You'll also learn to master your own essence, unleashing a magnetic presence and unshakable focus. Before you continue, type in the comments. Today, I choose to transmute, not lose. This phrase will become your energetic seal, your ritual commitment to your inner awakening. Jacobo Grinberg, a Mexican neuroscientist and consciousness researcher, devoted his life to understanding the mysteries of human reality beyond what the eyes can see. To him, the world we perceive isn't fixed. It's a projection shaped by the structure of our mind. That's why the way we handle sexual energy directly impacts how we experience the world. Grinberg studied shamans, ancestral spiritual traditions, and invisible neural fields. His work revealed something disturbing. The reality we live in can be reconfigured when we consciously channel our inner forces, and no energy is more powerful than the sexual. For Taoist and Tantric traditions, semen isn't mere fluid. It's the liquid gold of life, capable of healing, strengthening, and awakening higher states of consciousness. When masturbation is performed with intention, breath, and focus, it ceases to be an act of loss and becomes a tool for spiritual ascent. What was once unconscious pleasure turns into a ritual of transformation. And this is exactly where science, spirituality, and self-awareness meet. The energy you waste today could fuel your enlightenment tomorrow. There is a silence that arrives right after climax, a kind of emptiness that isn't just physical, but existential. Many men experience this feeling without knowing how to name it. It's an internal exhaustion, as if something essential has been ripped away for no purpose. That's the result of unconscious, repetitive pleasure, divorced from any higher intention. It's the stimulus-response cycle: arousal, release, emptiness, followed by guilt, fatigue, or mental fog. But what's behind it? Sexual energy, according to ancient traditions, is the primordial creative force, the same energy that can generate new life or transform your consciousness. When it's wasted unconsciously, you lose more than semen. You lose vitality, clarity, magnetism, and spiritual power. Masturbation, used as emotional escape to relieve tension or fill a void, ironically deepens that very inner hole. In the brain, this frequent habit reinforces neural pathways seeking instant gratification, undermining your capacity for focus, discipline, and direction. Energetically speaking, every unconscious release is like a short circuit. A powerful force that could be elevated and transmuted is simply scattered into the void, destabilizing your subtle system. It's crucial to understand. Pleasure itself isn't the villain. The problem lies in the absence of presence. When the act becomes mechanical, automatic, and impulsive, it switches off the higher mind and activates only the survival circuit. What should be a portal of power turns into a cycle of depletion, and that cycle comes at a cost. Men trapped in this pattern report constant fatigue, mental confusion, lack of motivation, and a persistent sense of disconnection from themselves. It's as if a core piece of their masculine strength is being drained drop by drop, and it is. But this can be changed. The first step is to recognize that unconscious pleasure is an illusion. It offers a fleeting peak and then demands an energetic toll. By awakening to this truth, a man frees himself from compulsion and moves towards self-mastery. He realizes that within the impulse lies a key, and that this impulse, rather than being repressed, can be redirected toward his spiritual and personal growth. In Taoist and Hermetic traditions, sexual energy is treated with reverence. It's not an animalistic urge to be battled, but a sacred elixir, a refined essence carrying the potential for complete transformation of the being. The ancient masters called this energy Jing, the vital substance forming the basis of our health, longevity, and spiritual awareness. It is the human body's liquid gold. While modern science views semen as a reproductive fluid, these ancient traditions saw it as the concentrated force of life. Every drop contains vast energetic potency, capable of creating a new human being. But more than that, if this energy is retained and transmuted, it can nourish the brain, strengthen the organs, expand perception, and awaken elevated states of consciousness. In Hermetic alchemy, this process is called the Great Work. The alchemist seeks to transform the lead of raw instinct into the gold of spiritual illumination. Semen, in this symbolism, is the raw material, and its unconscious loss represents the dissipation of one's very power. Hence, retention is not repression, but sanctification. It allows the energy to circulate internally, nourishing power centers and expanding the vibrational field. In Taoism, the body is viewed as an alchemical laboratory where Jing must be carefully cultivated. When this essence is constantly poured out, the body loses vigor, the mind loses focus, and the spirit weakens. But when it's consciously channeled, this energy transforms into Shen, the refined spiritual energy that feeds the spirit and opens the doors of enlightenment. This perspective completely redefines the relationship with masturbation and sexual energy. A man stops seeing pleasure as an end in itself and starts seeing it as a means of elevation. Each sexual impulse becomes an opportunity to refine consciousness. Arousal ceases to be purely physical and becomes alchemical. The secret is to recognize semen as the nectar of life, not waste but sacred substance, not something to be squandered in moments of empty pleasure, but something to be honored, transmuted, and returned to consciousness as divine power. This is the path of the true inner alchemist. In many spiritual traditions, sexual energy is represented by a serpent or dragon coiled at the base of the spine. In Tantra, this force is called Kundalini, a primal, serpentine energy waiting like a spiral of fire in the root chakra to be awakened. Its rising is not merely symbolic, it's physical, emotional, energetic, and spiritual. When sexual energy is channeled with awareness and elevated intention, it no longer dissipates through the genitals, but rises up the spine, passing through the body's 7 energy centers, the chakras. This ascending movement is what the ancients called the dragon's ascent. It's a deep alchemical process that breaks blockages, activates dormant potentials, and expands consciousness to mystical states of unity. But this ascent is only possible with mastery. Arousal alone does not awaken Kundalini. It's the conscious redirection of energy that allows this inner miracle. When masturbation is performed with presence, breath, and visualization, it becomes an initiation rite. Pleasure is transformed into fuel and the body into a channel of illumination. As this energy ascends, it passes the solar plexus, activating personal power, the heart, awakening universal love, the throat, purifying expression, the third eye, expanding inner vision, and finally the crown chakra, where the ego dissolves and the individual merges with the divine. This is the moment of sacred ecstasy. It's not a physical orgasm, it's an orgasm of the soul. Jacobo Grinberg studied expanded states of consciousness and learned that certain practices could alter a person's perceptual structure. Awakening Kundalini is one such practice. According to him, external reality is a projection of the internal neural field. When that field is reconfigured through transmuted sexual energy, perception of reality changes, and with it, the entire life experience. Awakening Kundalini isn't a myth. It's a genuine possibility, but it demands respect, preparation, and surrender. The dragon within your body isn't an enemy. It's the guardian of your temple. When you learn to guide it consciously, it becomes your greatest force for healing, transformation, and ascent. Conscious masturbation isn't a sexual technique. It's an inner awakening ritual. The difference between an instinctive impulse and a sacred act lies in intention. The first seeks release and relief. The second seeks expansion, elevation, and vibrational power. When you transform touch into presence, breath into an energy channel, and pleasure into transmutation, you enter a realm that few explore: sexual alchemy. Imagine your body as a temple. Each time you touch yourself, you're entering that sanctuary. The question is, do you enter as a servant of compulsion or as a priest of consciousness? Mindful masturbation turns desire into circulating energy, sexual fire into ascending light. The first step is to prepare your environment. A clean, silent, respectful space activates the ritual field. Next comes conscious breathing, slow, deep breaths connecting mind, body, and emotion. During the process, instead of giving in to uncontrolled excitement, you welcome it, observe it, feel it, and direct it. You can visualize the sexual energy as a golden sphere in your lower abdomen. Rather than exploding outward, that energy is guided upward along the spine, supported by breath and by contracting the PC muscle, which we'll cover next. Pleasure doesn't vanish, it refines. What used to be a brief peak becomes an expansive, lasting state. This practice activates higher perception centers. You begin to feel more centered, more intuitive, more magnetic. Your presence strengthens. Your thoughts become clearer. Your gaze deepens. And best of all, you haven't lost energy. You've recycled, elevated, and anchored it. Tantric traditions call this inner maithuna, a sacred union with your own essence. There's no guilt and no repression, only celebration. When masturbation becomes ritual, the body becomes an altar. Desire becomes a flame, and you become the alchemist forging light from the fire of the flesh. At the core of the physical and energetic body lies a small but extremely powerful key, the pubococcygeus muscle, known as the PC muscle. While most people associate it with urinary control, ancient spiritual traditions regarded it as an alchemical valve responsible for controlling the flow of vital energy, especially sexual energy. In Taoism, it's called the golden lock. For alchemists, it's the seal of the inner vessel where transmutation takes place. When consciously contracted, the PC muscle seals the essence, preventing its dissipation through unconscious orgasm. When intentionally relaxed, it opens the pathway for energy to rise, flowing along the spine and nurturing the energy centers. Locating this muscle is simple. It's the same one you use to stop the flow of urine. But its importance goes far beyond the physical. Contracting it during arousal, especially near climax, is like closing a dam's gate, redirecting the energy inward. This practice prevents semen loss and initiates the internal energy circulation known as the microcosmic orbit. By using the PC muscle in conjunction with conscious breathing and visualization, the practitioner creates an internal energy recycling system. The impulse that once escaped now condenses, moves, and transforms. Each contraction becomes a gesture of power, each retention an act of choice, each breath a subtle activation of your personal magnetic field. With regular practice, strengthening the PC muscle also improves sexual health, ejaculatory control, organ vitality, and energy grounding. But most importantly, at subtle levels it brings greater emotional control, mental clarity, and spiritual depth. The PC muscle guards the path between raw desire and elevated consciousness realms. Learning to use it is like acquiring the key to an internal alchemy lab. It not only prevents loss, it triggers ascent. That's why, for the true initiator, activating it isn't a mere exercise, but a silent ritual of inner power. There exists a presence that doesn't need to speak loudly or impose authority. It's felt. It's perceived in silence. It's like an invisible magnetic field that fills the space and draws respect, attention, and gazes effortlessly. This presence doesn't come from appearance or posture, it comes from within, and its secret lies in transmuted sexual energy. When sexual energy is constantly wasted, the auric field weakens. The eyes lose their sparkle, the voice loses its firmness, the mind becomes scattered. But when that energy is retained, refined, and elevated, it nourishes the higher perception centers, strengthens the personal electromagnetic field, and activates what the ancients called inner magnetism. This magnetism isn't mystical, it's physiological and energetic. Retained and circulated semen stimulates the brain, strengthens posture, balances hormones, and enriches personal vibration. A man who practices transmutation becomes more grounded, more aware, more centered. He radiates confidence without having to prove anything. Science has shown that the human body emits measurable frequencies, and these frequencies shift according to our internal state. Transmuted sexual energy raises your vibrational frequency, causing others around you to feel something different, even if they can't pinpoint what it is. Some call this a strong aura, striking presence, or unexplainable charm. But it isn't luck, it's cultivated awareness. This magnetism is what distinguishes a true leader from a manipulator. It inspires trust, not by words, but by what you emanate. Transmuted sexual energy manifests in your voice, your gaze, your gesture. It turns raw desire into clarity of purpose, decision-making power, and strategic vision. Imagine entering a room and being naturally noticed, not for showmanship, but for vibrational coherence. Imagine speaking and your words having genuine impact. Imagine looking into someone's eyes and them feeling truth, strength, and presence. That's spiritual magnetism, and it's born from loyalty to your own energy. Each time you choose to transmute rather than disperse, you forge this power. You become not only stronger, but more magnetic, more integral, more authentic, because he who masters his energy masters his reality. Retaining sexual energy is powerful, but it can be dangerous if done unconsciously. Many men, upon discovering the benefits of semen retention, simply stop ejaculating. Without preparation, guidance, and transmutation practice, this energy accumulates crudely and eventually backfires on body and mind. Sexual energy is fire, and like any fire, it can warm or burn. When stored without circulation, it breeds irritability, insomnia, anxiety, mental confusion, and even emotional outbursts. It's like damming a river without building spillways. Sooner or later, the pressure breaks through. The result? Frustration, impulsive relapses, and total loss of progress. The problem isn't retention, it's retention without transmutation. Retention demands complementary practices: deep breathing, meditation, visualization, physical movement, creativity, and spiritual connection. Without these, stored semen becomes a burden, not light. Taoism teaches that energy must flow. The microcosmic orbit practice, for example, specifically guides Jing sexual energy from the base of the spine to the crown, where it refines into Shen spiritual energy. This prevents accumulation in the lower centers and distributes energy throughout the system, fortifying both body and mind. Furthermore, lack of transmutation can breed obsession. The practitioner becomes too identified with retention, making it an end rather than a means of elevation. This creates inner tension, spiritual vanity, and even guilt upon relapse, as if one's worth is tied to controlling desire. Such rigidity is the opposite of true mastery. The path of sexual energy is not about repression, but about intelligent channeling. True strength lies in redirecting the fire, not extinguishing it. Therefore, those who choose retention must simultaneously educate their energy, Teach it to ascend, nourish the higher chakras, and express it through art, speech, action, and service to the world. What transforms is not just the act of retaining, but what you do with the energy you retain. When the fire is guided consciously, it illuminates. When ignored, it consumes. Thus, retention is a commitment to evolution, not a trophy of self-control. Evolution requires daily practice, humility, and surrender to the internal refining process. The journey of the true inner alchemist begins with a simple acknowledgement. Within every impulse lies a seed of power. Desire isn't the enemy, it's the raw material. In spiritual alchemy, that material is called plumbum, or lead. It's dense, heavy, primal. But from it we forge aurum, the gold of awakened consciousness. This process is known as the Great Work. Transforming raw desire into spiritual illumination is a continuous transmutation path. It demands presence, discipline, and intention. The body isn't denied. It's honored as a sacred laboratory. Sexuality isn't taboo, but the most potent creative force of the human being, capable of opening expansion portals when steered with wisdom. Jacobo Grinberg pointed out that reality is a vibrational field shaped by the mind. Unconscious masturbation strengthens a fragmented, limited, dense perception. Transmuted sexual energy, on the other hand, expands the neural field, awakens new connections, dissolves conditioned patterns, and opens space for expanded perception. States where duality dissolves and unity with the whole is tangibly felt. Enlightenment isn't a distant mystical state. It's the natural outcome of integrating all internal forces. When a man learns to use his desire as a driving force rather than a vice, he begins to ascend the spiral of consciousness, transforming his energy centers, refining his thoughts, and elevating his actions. This inner work doesn't occur all at once. It's like a sculptor shaping raw marble, an ongoing process of daily refinement. Every moment of desire becomes a choice. Surrender to the impulse and repeat the cycle, or contain, breathe, elevate, and forge light from matter. The fire that once burned now illuminates. The serpent that crawled now soars. Desire transforms into purpose. The body, once an instrument of dispersion, becomes a temple of consciousness, and the being that once sought outside finally discovers the true gold has always been within. Now that you understand the hidden power of your sexual energy, the choice is yours. You can keep repeating the cycle of unconscious pleasure and emptiness, or you can begin today the transmutation journey that turns desire into light, impulse into wisdom, and pleasure into spiritual presence. The practice starts with a simple act: awareness. Each time the impulse arises, breathe. Connect with your intention. Remember, there's a fire within you, and that fire, when properly guided, can illuminate your entire existence. Turn the intimate act into ritual. Turn your body into a temple. Turn the now into a portal. You don't have to do it all at once, but you must begin. How about dedicating the next 7 days to observing your energy, practicing the breath, strengthening the PC muscle, and visualizing your light ascending? Feel the impact on your mind, your presence, and your focus. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share with anyone else seeking evolution. Leave a comment. I choose to master my energy and awaken my power. Because when you master your energy, you become unstoppable.